everyone. Robert Ferringo with Doc Sports. Here as always with my compatriot, Raphael Esparza, bringing you our college hoops handicapping extravaganza NCAA Tournament edition. Today we're going to be breaking down the East region. But before we get to that, I want to mention a few things. Number one, we just lowered the price of a rest of the season college basketball package on the site. There's 3 weeks of action left. So we lowered the price so you can get all of that. You can get signed up, locked in, and get yourself strapped in for a big time end of March. I also want to mention the free 60 link. You see the banner above and the link below. Click on that. Go to Doc Sports. Take advantage of $60 free. You are welcome. You can use that towards any handicapper, any package in any sport that you want. All right, Raphael, we are talking East region of the NCAA Tournament. All right, in my opinion, and I know that this isn't shared by all analysts, but I think it is the most difficult bracket. I think that this is the region where I see kind of the most potential variance, and I just think it's the strongest region, really. When you look at the teams top to bottom, when you look at the top 4 seeds, I don't see a huge disparity between them compared to some of the other regions. What was the first thing that jumped out at you when you saw the East region?
I don't really look at the toughest region, the easiest region, especially for the number ones, because you know it. If a team gets red hot coming into this tournament, like maybe Va Tech, anyone can beat anyone this one. I think the biggest ones, I thought St. Peter's and Kentucky at the bottom of the bracket, I thought could be very interesting. Let's face it, St. Mary's, Wyoming, and Indiana. Those 3 teams, or one of those 2 are going to play each other. I think those I'm going to say it's either Indiana that could beat today and St. Mary's. I think one of those 2 can maybe squeeze in and maybe make a Sweet 16 appearance. I think the Gales, who had to play Gonzaga twice, has that experience. The Hoosiers, who are starting to play a little bit better coming in, just a bad loss against Iowa, but Iowa was just smoking red hot, especially on offense. I think that could be a little bit surprising. And don't sleep on the Akron Zips. They can make UCLA's day a little bit nerve-wracking.
All right, well, we'll get to your upset picks and we'll break down some of the more intriguing games in a minute. But the first thing I want to ask you is, which line on one of these East region games, when you saw the spreads come out for these 7 games, because as you mentioned, Wyoming, Indiana, they're going to play each other tonight. There's no line on that game of St. Mary's. But the other 7 spreads, which one of them jumped out at you? Is there anything that surprised you with the numbers in this region?
I mean, let's face it, I knew Kentucky was going to be a double-digit favorite, but I made it like 14, 15. Really? 18 and a half? I mean, I just thought it was just way, way, way too many points. Because let's face it, I don't think the SEC was top like we've seen the SEC in past years. So, I mean, we've seen Auburn struggle. We've seen LSU just fall completely. Don't even have a head coach. Kentucky's had some bad hiccups. St. Peter's an experienced team. I think they can maybe cause some problems. I thought that was just number was way too. That's the first one I'd probably jump up. But again, I just can't wait for the either Wyoming, St. Mary's, or Indiana, St. Mary's line. That's got me most intrigued at all. I don't know why I'm Jones. I think I'm watching the Wyoming Indiana game, and just to be prepared for the game, their next game. I'm just so excited to see who St. Mary's is going to fight. Because if it's Indiana, St. Mary's, that could be a very interesting matchup.
Well, you touched on it, and what's the other region that has the 2 11 seeds that are playing each other, or the 12 seeds? I don't have it right here. Who is yet
Rutgers, Notre Dame.
Determined?
Rutgers, Notre Dame's the last.
So, that's right. So that's something that I want to talk about. The teams, the major conference team, not the scrub teams. The scrub teams are going to be 15, 16 seeds. They're going to get hammered in the next games. Ignore that. But the major conference teams over the last 11 years that we've had the first 4, okay, in 10 of 11 years, a team that has won their first 4 game has gone on to win their first round game. So you bring that up, that Wyoming, Indiana winner, they are going to be a dangerous team for St. Mary's because as we've seen in the past, teams have gotten hot and made runs. Syracuse made a run to the Final Four. By the way, UCLA made a run to the Final Four last year as a first 4 team. And when we're talking about surprise lines, that's one of the 2 that jumped out at me. The first was the fact that Texas was favored over Virginia Tech. Very surprised by that, in part because of how pathetic Texas has been against the spread this year, and considering how hot Virginia Tech has been. and a team that I'm picking up on a little something here. I'm getting a little sense from you that you're not high on UCLA. I was surprised that they were posted as a 14-point favorite over Akron and the MAC. The MAC was really good this year. It was a really deep conference this year. Akron's playing its best basketball at the right time. It's been a while since we've seen UCLA really blow somebody out, even though they did cover for me for my 8-unit game of the year last week. Thank you, UCLA Bruins. But that was kind of the surprise line for me. Getting away from the spreads for a second, Raphael, what do you think is the best first round matchup? Could be from a betting standpoint, could just be from a basketball standpoint. Which of these games in the East bracket is the most intriguing to you in the first round?
I'm going to say probably Texas Tech, just because of how hot Tech has come in here. I mean, not just beating one Titan, but they beat a whole bunch of Titans to cut down the nets on Saturday. And I mean, you just said Texas has had trouble covering games. They've had some bad losses where their offense didn't even come out in the second half. If Tech plays like they did all weekend long last weekend, they're advancing, period.
For me, it's the Murray State-San Francisco matchup. I really can't wait to see that. These are two very, very good mid-major teams. And just the style of play, I feel like, is going to lend itself to a very good game. Murray State has won 20 straight games. They've been in the top 25 for the last month. Everybody knows about them. But San Francisco actually plays at a faster pace, which is odd because you look at a lot of their games, they play in the 60s a lot and stuff like that. But just the pace metrics suggest that San Francisco, they're going to be willing to run with Murray State. Murray State, they're a 7 seed. I'm not saying they haven't earned it, okay? But this is going to be a good game. They are going to be tested, and the spread in this game alone indicates that this might be a good one. So, all right, let's break down. We got 4 games that I want to talk about here, okay? We've touched on some of them. North Carolina Marquette, UCLA Akron, Texas Virginia Tech, and Murray State San Francisco. Let's get started with that North Carolina Marquette game, all right? North Carolina, small 3-point favorite as expected. You know, they're blue blood. You know that the action's going to come in on them. What do you think of this Marquette team, Raphael? I think they've been big-time overachievers all season. Do you think they have what it takes to spring an upset, or is this a team that you think is trending downward?
Oh, they're trending downward. I mean, I know North Carolina lost to Virginia Tech, like I said, but let's face it, I think Virginia Tech could have probably beat some NBA teams the way they were playing last weekend. I mean, North Carolina only scored 59 points against that Tech. So, but let's face it, Marquette, they've covered against St. John's, but after that, they didn't cover a game since the early of February. I don't want nothing to do with Marquette. And that whole conference, I'm looking to fade anyways, fade them in a tournament, fade them in the NIT, fade them in the CBI or whatever, CSI. I'm fading that whole tournament. They stink. But I like North Carolina. I mean, they played well against Duke. I know you're pointing to yourself. That conference stinks. But
look at my face
I like North Carolina.
Disrespecting the Big East, dude. Disrespect the Big East at your own peril is what I'm going to say. Do you see this number moving? Because if most people are seeing this game the way that you do, don't you think that this is going to be one of the games that has the most lopsided action in it?
I don't know about lopsided. It's 4:30 Eastern. If it was an evening game, then this one will probably go to 4.5, 5. It's a 3:30 game. It's a Thursday game. So it won't get. If it's maybe a Friday game, you might see 5, 5.5. But North Carolina will be the betting team just because they're North Carolina. So there would be a big public team. I would see this one probably closing 4, 4.5. I would be shocked if it goes to 5.
All right, keep an eye out for Justin Lewis for Marquette. Really underrated player, very, very good player. You know, Marquette is going to press and pressure. They're a big-time energy and effort team. So I think one of the most important things in this game is going to be if North Carolina can match that effort, especially early in the game. For North Carolina, it's very simple, okay? Guard play. When Love and RJ Davis play well, North Carolina can beat anybody. We've seen them do it. When those two don't play well, they can lose to anybody. So that's really the key to this game is how their guards handle Marquette's pressure, okay? And if they can, North Carolina should run away with this one. Now, you mentioned Virginia Tech. Let's talk about them in Texas. A lot of people are saying that, you know, you could have flipped the seeds of these two teams and nobody really would have complained. Texas seems a little bit overseeded as a 6. Virginia Tech kind of underseeded as an 11, considering not just what they did last weekend, as you mentioned, but I believe they're 13-2 in their last 15 games. This is a team
Yes.
that the arrow is pointing up in a big, big way, and they're playing their best basketball at the right time.
Yeah, I mean that one loss that they had against Clemson, they easily should have won that game. I think they only lost like by 3 or 4 points in Clemson. So I mean, it wasn't like they got blown out on the road. It was a tough beat for them. They, like I say, could have easily won that one. I agree. I'm not sold on Texas. They're a team I was fading. I think the last time they covered a game was on Valentine's Day. So it's been a while that they covered a game. So I want nothing to do. This Vatek or pass for me. I want nothing to do with the Longhorns. Sorry, Matthew McConaughey. I know he watches.
Texas, as you mentioned, 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 games. They're only 12-20 against the spread on the season. They've been a money burner all year long. They've lost 3 straight games. But I got to ask you, Raphael, and you've seen a lot of tournaments from both sides of the aisle, working with the books, working as a handicapper. 2 things in play here. Number one, we got a line that kind of smells funny, right? Like, considering how hot Virginia Tech has been, why is Texas favored? Should that send up some red flags? And number 2, do you worry about the letdown factor for Virginia Tech? It seems like we see this happen every tournament. Team wins the SEC championship, the Big Ten championship, or the ACC or the Big East championship, and then they flop in their first round game because emotionally it's just hard to stay at that level. Those 2 things being at play in this game, maybe should we take a look at Texas?
I mean, you can. I think a lot of some of that public high school or college spring break money is going to come in at Texas because they're going to look at their bracket. Ooh, a 6 seed versus 11 seed. 6 seed money is always going to come. Who's a more popular team in basketball? We can compare those 2, Texas or Vatek. So there's some more college spring break money coming in on Texas. So yeah, Vatek, one of the hotter teams coming in here. So I think that's where the number. I would not be shocked if this one closes probably around Pick'em. I think some Vatek sharp money comes in. Again, it's a Friday game. So sharps will probably stick around. Sharps usually pound the games right when the numbers come out and then lay low to see what spring break money comes in to see if they can jump on that one. So it's not like we see football where sharps bet it and then everyone jumps on the sharp play and then that number goes crazy. For college basketball, you have to look at the sharps jump on these numbers right when we post them on Sunday. And then they sit back and wait to see what that spring break college kids spending their mom and dad's credit card money are doing. And then they try to jump on either get more money on that side or jump off it.
Good stuff from Raphael. As always, I say that Texas either wins this game outright and proves everybody bagging on them wrong, or they lose by 20. And Virginia Tech just continues to be a buzzsaw. All right. Correct me if I'm wrong. You are not high on UCLA. That's the vibe I'm getting from you, right? They are 14-point favorites against Akron. This is a late game on Thursday night. What are your thoughts when you're looking at this one?
It's not that I'm not high. They got a very, very tournament experienced team. I just think the number is just way too high. That's all. I mean, I think you said Akron's really, really hot, playing their best ball right now. Does UCLA win this game? Yes. Do they cover? No. I'd see them 10, 11 points, free throw late or something like that. Gets out of hand. I don't see them covering. I mean, again, UCLA is a very experienced team. They still remember how they lost last year. A lot of those guys came back sitting on there. They want another redemption factor on that bench to try to make another run. I'm just not high on this number. Now, again, you said it. It's a late game. Maybe this one opened up 15 at some shops on Sunday when it opened up and quickly got bet down. Wait to see what number you're going to get. If you like UCLA, there's a couple 13.5s out there. See if the number continues to drop. If you're looking at the Zips, like I know a lot of people in the Ohio area, see if it jumps back up. It's an 8 or 9:50 game. You have all day Thursday to see if you can get that number that you want. So I think this number is going to be teeter-tottering both ways.
Akron has won 8 straight games. They're 7-1 against the spread in those games. And again, we've seen teams from the MAC wreak havoc in opening rounds. Recently, Ohio did it just last year. So very good conference. That's definitely a game that I'm going to have my eye on. All right. And then another one of the nightcap games. Again, Murray State and San Francisco. What do you got? What do you see in this one?
Man, you know me, I've been a big fan of the Dons all season long. I've been a big fan of WGC. I mean, I just can't remember the last time the WCC had not 1, not 2, but 3 people in their, or teams in their conference. So I know Murray State's going to be a very public team. If you like the Dons, wait, because everyone knows about Murray State. Everyone knows where John Morant went. He went to Murray State. Oh, so they're going to get a lot of dumb money come in. If you like the Dons, just sit back and wait. I think you'll be able to get a better number. Now, do I think the Dons can win this game? I think Murray State has the better athletes. I think they play better defense. I think if they put the pressure on the ball before they get across half court, I think that can cause San Francisco some problems. They've had trouble with Gonzaga's zone defense in the past. Then I think Murray State can win this one, but I'm going to wait. Here's another one. I'm going to wait to see what the public does this, because if this one gets out of hand, I might have to look at the Dons.
Murray State's only 3-7 against the spread as a neutral site favorite. This is the highest I can remember an Ohio Valley Conference team being seeded, really. And, we have some of these teams that came from very good conferences. They're a good team that came from a good conference like Akron, right? Were they the best team in the MAC this year? No, they weren't, but they were good enough. They were one of the good teams in a good conference. My problem with Murray State is that the Ohio Valley was awful this year. There is a reason that their average margin of victory in conference was somewhere over 20 points per game. Those teams were not good. They struggled a little bit early in the season as well. In the few games that they did dip out and play against other tournament caliber teams. So I'm not bagging on Murray State. They won 30 games for a reason here, man. But what I'm saying is they haven't faced a team as good as San Francisco in a while. Not to say that San Francisco is great. They're not. They shouldn't have made the field as far as I'm concerned. Texas A&M absolutely should have made the field over San Francisco. But San Francisco's here. They're playing with house money. All right, they got something to prove and absolutely nothing to lose. I think that makes them a very dangerous underdog. Raphael, answer me something. San Francisco started as a favorite in this game. They are now the underdog. That's a rare occurrence where we've seen the money move the line 2 or 3 points to where it changes who's the favorite or the underdog. In your experience, is that an indicator one way or another? Should we follow that line movement and jump on the new fave? Or should we stick with what the books originally posted and jump on that team that was posted as a favorite that's now the underdog? How is that traditionally shook out?
I mean, Sharp Action did come in right away, right from the get-go on Sunday. It's probably one of the ones that we had to move quickly on that one. So, yeah, you can follow that. I would follow it to maybe 1.5. I wouldn't go past 1.5 if you like Murray State. So I think that's one of the ones where I think the wrong team. I may have Murray State pick maybe -1. I had them maybe are going to be the small favorite. So it didn't shock me that money came on that one. Now I thought the total came out a little bit low. We all seen San Francisco can put up some points. They put up 80 plus against Gonzaga. They put up 80 plus or 75 plus against BYU. So they can score, and we all see Murray State can score. They put 88 against SEMO. I thought the total should have been around 141, 142. So I think the total's a little bit high. I think we're going to see Murray State probably close about 1.5. I'll be totally blown away if we see a 2. But if we see that 2, I think maybe the people who jumped on it early might try to get some more action on it, thinking that they thought it was going to maybe move to 2, 2.5, or maybe even 3.
I won't be surprised if this number gets to 2.5. I think a lot of people are going to jump on Murray State. San Francisco, they're kind of a niche team, right? You really have to follow college basketball to know, who plays for the Dons or even what conference they play in, right? I think a lot of dumb money is going to look at the 30-2 record next to Murray State. They're going to look at the fact that they're the higher seed. They're going to look at the fact that they know him from John Morant and they've seen him in the top 25. And I think a lot of money is going to come in on Murray State. I'll be surprised if that line doesn't move because it's later in the day. All right, Raphael, I'm not going to ask you for a free play because there's only 7 games on the board. You got to save that good stuff for our Thursday release, 11:30 Eastern time. All picks will be available. Check the BPA for big plays. But give me an upset pick, all right, or a sleeper, an upset or a sleeper, which by implication will be kind of a free play. So give me either a first-round upset or a sleeper that you like, and tell me who you think is going to win this bracket.
For the East, I'm going to stick with my team that I had cutting down the nets from the beginning of the year that faltered off, especially down the season. I'm going to say Purdue. I'm going to say the 3rd seed, Purdue Boilermakers, win the East. I'm not jumping ship on them. I'm going to ride them. I'm going to have them winning that. I think a team I'm really excited to watch North Carolina play in this game. I'm going to say that could be a very, very interesting 8-9 matchup. I'm really excited to watch that game.
Okay, as far as upsets go, one of the things you mentioned earlier that I want to come back to is if Indiana beats Wyoming, all right, then I think I might take a shot with them against St. Mary's. Like I said, we cannot ignore the trend of teams winning in the first four and then winning that first game in the first round. They have an advantage. This is something we talked about all last weekend, right? Those teams that get to play early in their conference tournament, they get those jitters out. They get the nerves out. They get that win under their belt. That gives them a massive advantage when they go up against a team that's playing its first tournament game the following day, or in this case, 2 days later. So I'm looking at that. If Virginia Tech beats Texas, it's not going to be an upset per se. It will be, well, technically it will be, but, I think everyone's kind of expecting that. I think Akron's going to play with UCLA a little bit. The more I look at that game, the more I think that Akron can cause some heartburn, at least for that veteran Bruins team. Like you said, they're trying to get back to the Final Four like they were last year, trying to take care of that unfinished business. But they got to make sure that they don't get caught looking so far ahead that they don't take care of business against the Zips. All right, he's Raphael Esparza. I'm Robert Ferringo. That's our breakdown of the East region of the NCAA Tournament. Be sure to check out our other videos breaking down the other 3 regions in the NCAA Tournament. Carpe diem, and good luck.